So the movie features three main actors, and like I said, they were friends of mine, so obviously they wanted to help out, but they also wanted to stay practiced. But also, on top of that, if you factor in that since it's unscripted, they get a lot of input creatively on how the story is going to be told, unfold. I basically left their character backgrounds up to them to decide, and I think in having them invest creatively in the project helped out. And since we didn't have any money, I wasn't able to pay anybody, so having them being able to input their ideas creatively into the project that's going to end up on screen, I think, is a big motivational tool for getting actors to come work for you for free. What we would do is I would call or email or text everybody like a week in advance, and I'd say, are you guys all available the next Sunday? And I'd either get a yes or no, and we'd find out finally when a date that all of them were available, and I'd say, okay, we'll meet at my place at 11 a.m. And my place is the apartment that most of the movie was shot at, so they'd show up, we'd sit down, say hi, catch up, and then just start to talk about what we wanted to shoot for that day. And all I would have is a one-page or one-paragraph outline of the scenes, and it would have the characters where they're at the beginning. It would have where I wanted them to go through the story, and then where they needed to be at the end. And that was it. And all I told them was, as long as you guys stay within that universe, if we know where we're starting and know where we're finishing, you guys can fill in the middle with whatever you want. Another thing to get them even into the house was I'd make sure that I'd pay for their lunch. So if they were coming over, I'd make sure that I'd order a bunch of pizza for us to all eat at lunch. So that's one thing you got to make sure you do, is if you're going to not pay your actors, just make sure you're feeding them so that everyone's kind of having a good time at least. And we tried, without a crew without any gear and stuff, it didn't feel much like work or a movie set. It was just we were all coming here and hanging out and shooting some stuff when we felt comfortable with shooting. For shooting, I'd take my shotgun microphone, plug it directly into the Canon. I'd start with the wide lens. I'd take the lav mic and I'd plug it into the zoom, directly into the zoom here. And I'd put that on one of the actors, whoever I was focusing the scene on, but I usually would wait a little later in the takes until we figured out our scene. And the reason that I'd shoot the wide angles first was because in improvisational scenes, you don't know what you're going to get. It could be great, it could be bad, but you need to find the scene first. So we do our masters and usually do 4 or 5 takes of those until we found what we were happy with. We'd keep the stuff we like, get rid of the stuff we didn't, and then you kind of have a good guide of how the scene's going to go. And then that's when you can start punching in on your actors and getting the close-ups, because you now know what moments or the beats are going to be throughout the scene. And that helped a lot, because then when you're in the editing and you have all these different takes, if you have those punch-ins, you can then switch from take to take. And even getting inserts is a huge deal, because then you find out that if you want to switch takes for a specific moment, you need to be able to cut away from the action. Otherwise, you got crazy jump cuts, which we did use, but shooting wides first just helped us figure out what the scene would be in the general, and then we could start getting into the close-ups afterwards once we knew what we were getting. The only other gear that we did buy is I had a car rig that I bought off eBay that we had used previously on Mon Ami, and we used that for any of the car driving material that you see, and it's just a suction cup car mount. You can find them anywhere on eBay, usually from India. They're cheap, but they work. But even better now is you can get, from Rig Wheels, you can get an even cheaper one that's got a strong magnet for like $50. So the prices of gear is going down. So that would have saved us money had we gone that route. We used what we could that was available to us for shooting the movie. We knew the movie needed traffic, so we would wait until rush hour in Vancouver, and then we'd go out with the 2 actors and drive to the traffic hotspots. And since there wasn't any lines, it was just a matter of me hopping in the back seat and saying, okay, start playing around. You know your characters, pretend you're in a traffic jam trying to get home. And we also did the exact same thing for going for the roadblocks at night. Is we shot this started a bit of it shot during the Vancouver Olympics here. And half the city was shut down at that time with roadblocks. And so it was just a matter of sending Jez in the car and getting him to drive anywhere we knew where the roads were shut down and pretending it was a big surprise. And it's just stuff like that we used in our general surroundings to help make the movie look a little better. One thing I forgot to mention for production is that literally I was the only crew member. So if you can figure out a way that everything besides the camera work is taken care of, like it would just be me and my actors on set. If you can lav them up, or you can have a shotgun mic in the area somewhere hidden, or from the camera pointing directly at them, or doing something like that, so that it's just you and your actors, then you have a better chance of going to public places and stealing shots without getting noticed, especially if you're using a small camera. So it's very liberating to try and do a movie like this. So I encourage you to try it if you have the means. Also, a lot of the movie takes place at night in the apartment here, but I live in an apartment building. We don't want to piss off the neighbors, so what we would do is we went down to the dollar store and bought a whole bunch of black cardboard and just taped all the windows. So most of the movie's actually shot during a Sunday day, and we can yell and scream all we want because you can't get a noise complaint during the day. Well, I guess you could, but we never got any. Yeah, it's just another cheap way because you don't want your actors out all night for you, especially if they're working for free. That's basically how the movie was shot, and we would just keep doing that and building weekend after weekend after weekend whenever we had free time. And as you're going, you start to understand the subplots that the actors have brought to the table, and you can start changing your story as you go to start evolving into something a little different. I know the original outline we had was vastly different than what we finished with, but you got to give them complete freedom to try what they want, because that's what makes it enjoyable for everybody.